Triple H pushed back on Rock versus Reigns, and we've got all the details. We've got an update on TNA Wrestling's creative team, and AEW have shut down Tony Khan Heat reports. Stay tuned for all the deets. So getting straight into it, regarding Triple H, The Rock, and Roman Reigns. This one coming from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, words from Cultaholic.com. Dave Meltzer has detailed a possible ongoing creative power struggle within WWE between Triple H and The Rock. As one of the conditions for joining the TKO board of directors, it was agreed on January 3rd that The Rock would face Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania 40. That remained the plan even beyond WWE booking Cody Rhodes to win the men's Royal Rumble match. The story within WWE is that Johnson and Gewirtz were pushing for things that were involved, those involved on the creative side had different ideas about. Although Meltzer noted this should be taken with a grain of salt, as it's part of the storyline on WWE TV as Rock as a member of the TKO board of directors.
Of course, so like this is it's baffling that Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble, and everyone going he's gonna go and face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. He even stood on the corner and pointed up and was like, "Roman, I choose you." But the plan at that point, unbeknownst to some people in WWE, was for the Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. But Triple H, meanwhile, during that whole rigmarole, was scrambling behind the scenes, according to the report, to keep Cody Rhodes involved in the WrestleMania angle. It says here that the original plan for the February 2nd edition of SmackDown from Triple H would have seen the Bloodline take out Cody ahead of the official announcement of Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes would then return at some point and win the title, although the report states it's unclear if this would have happened at WrestleMania or shortly after the big show. It would have been so strange to have Cody win the Rumble, get taken out, so he's out of action, and then all of a sudden, if you smell, it comes in, it's The Rock, and he goes, yeah, I'm going to take his place.
Yeah, I'm going to take his place. He can have the belt on Raw in 3 weeks.
Backlash Paris.
Oh, Backlash Paris, perfect. Cody Rhodes.
Or Backlash France.
France. It just goes together so well. Red, white, and blue. Yeah,
exactly. You get all the American colours.
The other way we could have kept him involved is 2K24's got the new
40 years of WrestleMania.
Well, 40 years of WrestleMania, but it's got the special guest referee mode now.
It does.
So you could just take Cody and throw him in there, and then he's technically in the main event.
Cody could have been the enforcer.
Triple H was really overthinking this.
Really was. Well, following CM Punk's injury at the Rumble, though, WWE internally scheduled Cody Rhodes to instead challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania, a match that Punk obviously was originally scheduled to be a part of.
Yeah, before he tore his triceps, of course. Triple H, with input from The Rock and Brian Gewirtz, then booked for Cody Rhodes to endorse The Rock on the February 2nd edition of SmackDown, in the hopes that the endorsement from Rhodes would avoid the backlash against The Rock, which WWE expected, although not to the extent that it reached, because it was pretty nuclear.
It was massive, wasn't it? It was like, it was reaching scales that we've not seen in a while. It hit mainstream news, Sam. Mainstream. Deadline had it.
Well, they, of course, went and scrapped the originally planned injury angle for Cody, as the company didn't want Reigns doing the angle to injure Rhodes, since if they did the angle, it would make no sense to do Rollins versus Rhodes. But initially, they believed that the endorsement angle had been a major success due to the crowd reaction in Birmingham, Alabama.
And they popped.
Yeah.
It's The Rock.
Only to quickly realize instead it was the one thing they were trying to avoid, which was Johnson getting more bad publicity and being the real life bad guy in the situation, which again, yeah, you're right, it's The Rock. People are going to cheer for The Rock.
I mean, they did last night, even, and we discussed it earlier on.
It's built into your head. It's just built in.
You hear the music.
This time, you hear, if you're and you just stand up and you start screaming.
And then he comes out and he goes, look, I mean, his arm's much bigger.
Look at my goosebumps.
It's much bigger, but
you fatties
look at them.
Herpes on your lips.
Yeah, so people pop for it. And then, obviously, he's a bit of a bad guy at the moment. I think they've done the right thing pivoting from this. It's no surprise that WWE is sometimes quite good at pivoting.
Yes.
And Triple H leading the charge on that, scrambling behind the scenes to keep Cody involved. It's kind of good because it means that he has had a long-term plan of, yes, last year him losing at WrestleMania, the plan was to come back to this. It just looks like the thing's bumps in the road on the way there. It
also makes me think, what would it be like if the old regime was still in charge? Because we would have just rolled through with that and you could have just, it's like it or lump it, right?
It'd be The Rock versus John Cena 3. with Reigns watching as
Once
guest
in a lifetime.
Yeah, guest commentator.
It's only going to happen for a third time once in your lifetime. Meltzer then went on to add, this is said to be far more behind, there's said to be far more behind the scenes that hasn't come out, but given the timing, it can't be talked about now. But Johnson over the weekend said it was best to be out of the Reigns match, put Cody in, which by this point everybody conceded by then. It was Johnson who then pitched the heel turn, and he did pitch the idea of Reigns and Rock versus Rhodes and Rollins match for night one. So that was his idea. If that was his idea, that's how it's going to sort of turn out.
That's a massive match for night one, right?
Well, moving across the fence to TNA now, we've got a bit of an update regarding the creative team following D'Amour's firing. Now, while it was reported by the Wrestling Observer that Tommy Dreamer would be taking over the reins of TNA's creative following the departure and firing of Scott D'Amour, Tommy Dreamer himself has disputed the report via Busted Open Radio, and he said that he's not TNA Wrestling's head of creative, but he's still part of the team alongside Robert Evans and Delirious.
Now, PW Insider also reported that Ariel Schneer will be overseeing TNA content going forward, working with the new TNA president, Anthony Ciccione. The report states that it will be Schneer who will have the last word on any talent and creative decisions, but Anthony will be at the top of the pyramid. This has been a bit of a weird story because we've seen Tommy Dreamer, it was like he's in charge of TNA creative from the Wrestling Observer, and then Dreamer immediately coming out and being like, that's not the case.
Yeah.
He is involved in creative. That is correct. But yeah, he is not taking over for Scott D'Amour.
No. Which, I think that given the sound of things when we had the initial announcement, it sounds like we're going to be moving to more anthem focused. So that to me screams maybe we're going to have a bit of a team running creative rather than a single individual.
Yeah, and that can be sometimes quite good.
Yeah.
If you've got a body that does it, a whole group of people, you can kind of have more ideas in there.
It can also lead to high turnover and a lot of the complaints we've had with WWE over the years. So
for sure,
it's one that you've got to be quite careful with, I guess. But we had a new signing last night on AEW as well, didn't we?
We did. Following her victory on last night's AEW Rampage, it was confirmed by Tony Khan on Twitter that Queen Aminata is officially all elite. He wrote, "Congratulations to Queen Aminata. She has just won her first ever AEW match tonight, and now it's official. She's all elite." So we got the graphic, we got the whole thing. It's cool to see, another talent sign with AEW. They do have a big roster, but the women's division is something that has needed that boost. She could be one of those.
It's a hell of a shot in the arm for the women's division just generally at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think that it's going to be like this time next year, we're going to be looking at an entirely different thing in terms of the women's division. So I can't wait to see where it's going to end up.
For sure.
But keeping it with AEW here to close this one out. It was originally reported again by the Wrestling Observer newsletter that multiple AEW wrestlers are not pleased with Tony Khan and the agreement that AEW has in place with CMLL. Now, according to the report, the agreement states that no other Mexican wrestler can appear on AEW programming that features CMLL talent. This reportedly upset several performers from Mexico and caused them to be mad at Tony Khan for agreeing to those terms. Now, I guess in terms of like general wrestling audiences that don't know much about Lucha, one of the few things they know is that Lucha promotions, AAA and CMLL, hate each other.
Oh yeah, they're not on good terms.
Despise each other. They are not on good terms. They do not want to kind of work together.
No.
That's sort of it for most people, right?
Yeah,
so I guess it's one of those stories where you can kind of see it and go, okay, it's a bit weird. I don't know why, but I kind of understand it. But however, Fightful Select have since reported that the terms of the agreement between CMLL and AEW, which states that no Mexican wrestlers can appear on the same show as CMLL talent, is outright false. This was confirmed to them by AEW sources. They pointed out that Commander appeared on the January 31st Dynamite when the group from CMLL appeared on the same show. It also states that Penta was scheduled to appear on this week's programs, but he encountered travel issues. They did reveal though that CMLL talent are not supposed to be booked in angles or matches with AAA talent.
Which goes back to exactly what you were saying.
Sounds like very crossed wires here. Maybe more of a CMLL AAA no bleed thing. You'd imagine if they did ever want to run, because I don't even know if they do hate each other. It's just something you get told, right?
It's that thing in wrestling, right? Yeah.
But like, it's one of those things where I think you would want to do that on home soil before you did it anywhere else, regardless, right?
Yeah, of course. And it's just interesting. This story seems to have changed quite a bit, obviously, since that first story in the Observer that came out yesterday. There seemed to be a lot of heat on Tony Khan for this, and that's in AEW coming out through Fightful or to sort of squash those reports off heat on Tony Khan because of this. Now, I'm not surprised there's CML talent, as you said, not wanting to work with AAA talent. But
or at least the company's kind of not wanting to mix. The talent might be fine with each other.
It's kind of a terrible terms of agreement for AEW on paper anyway.
Yeah.
There would be no Mexican talent allowed on a show with CML talent. I'm glad they've squashed that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's going to be one of those evolving situations that will eventually be something we completely forget about. But Tony Khan, vindicated.
Yeah.
But that is it for your second dose of lovely bumper weekend wrestling news. We will be back later on with anything else should it break. But if not, have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the weather if you've got any. We don't. This is absolutely crap.
It's horrible.
Tatty bye.